expanded meeting this Monday?
Well, this is the first meeting of Nigeria's former ruling party, the People's Democratic Party, after the leadership crisis that led to rest by the Supreme Court last week.
Well, after the judgment of the Supreme Court last Wednesday, the Ahmed Makarfi leadership of the People's Democratic Party announced what it called amnesty for the leaders of the Ali Modu Sharif side who lost the battle.
Now, many leaders have been commenting on the verdict of the Supreme Court and how to reposition the party ahead of the 2019 general election.
We'll be taking up issues on the PDP leadership crisis, the origin and the lessons, as we are joined by former Minister of Aviation, Femi Fani-Kayode.
Now, Chief Femi Fani-Kayode served as the spokesman for the campaign organization of former President Goodluck Jonathan. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. It's a pleasure having you and Kakaaki. How did you receive the judgment of the Supreme Court last Wednesday?
Well, obviously with immense joy. It's been quite an ordeal for the last 1.5 years for the overwhelming majority of members of our party. But we thank God that the matter has come to a conclusion, the right conclusion, and we all seem to be moving in the right direction now. Now we can focus on organizing our party to become, a strong fighting force to take on this APC government that we believe needs to be removed from power by 2019. So it's a very, very good development, not just for the PDP, but for democracy, for the country. And I commend the Supreme Court for doing the right thing.
Now, Makarfi did say that the door is open to every member of the party, a group member, to come on board. And he used the word amnesty, that the party is ready to give amnesty to those members. What did he mean by that? Because we understand that Sharif has come out strongly to say that he does not need any amnesty because he did not commit any offense against the party.
Well, I think the chairman of our party is actually saying the right thing, and he's moving in the right direction. We are being magnanimous in victory. We are not in any way kicking them in the teeth. We're not relishing the fact that they were defeated, and we have forgiven them for the atrocities they committed against us. Look, you have to understand, this was a very acrimonious and a very difficult time for us. Some of our members died as a consequence of detention. And these detentions were orchestrated and organized by people like Ali Modu Sharif, simply because all those that were voices against him within the party over the last 1.5 years, he colluded with the powers that be to ensure they were locked up. Some didn't come out alive. I look at the governor of Niger State, for example, Kure. He never came out alive. He's dead now. He's dead and gone. There are others that are facing criminal prosecutions and charges. There are others that their families are being hauled in, all because there was an element of collusion between these people that came to take over the party of the PDP, the leadership of the PDP, and the government agencies and the federal government. So it's a very serious issue. Quite apart from that, this was an attempt to hijack the leadership of the opposition party, just to ensure that we were crippled and we could not put forward a credible presidential candidate in 2019. In other words, it was an attempt to ensure that the APC government will perpetuate itself in power indefinitely, and this is unacceptable. So when you talk about reconciliation and when the chairman talks like that, it's something that some of us feel a little bit uncomfortable with, but we have to accept it because politics is a game of numbers. Now, having said that and done the right thing, what happens next? The person that's been kicked out as national chairman came out to describe the whole of the PDP as leadership of the PDP as looters, and he went as far as to say that the Supreme Court, a distinguished and one of the most respected courts on the African continent, has handed the party over to looters, indicting the Supreme Court justices and indicting the leadership of the party that had reached out to him. And that is characteristic of them, characteristic of Ali Modu Sharif. And I would say this, that whatever it is he calls us or anybody else calls us, we are not focused on him anymore. His history is finished. We are focused on building up this party, and there are many people that were with him. Though he only took 5% of the party with him. We did a poll on it. But the overwhelming majority of people, 95% with Makarfi, we're all back together. And the 5% that are with him, we're calling them, come back home, let's work together, but no more acrimony. If Modiwa Sharif wants to go back to the APC or wherever he came from, let him go back alone. And if he suddenly has a change of heart and decides to do the right thing, repent before God, come and beg each and every one of us, get on his knees and say he's very sorry for the atrocities committed, I'm sure we'll all welcome him with open arms. This is politics. We need everybody. But we will not take insults, and we will not be labelled as looters and so on and so forth.
Okay, I still stay with that word amnesty, which the Sheriff has come out strongly to kick against.
Yes.
And you are saying that the party, yes, has given a chance to Alimodi Sheriff to apologize to the party. What are the indications, really, that Alimodi Sheriff did commit some of these offences that you have levelled against him? For instance, colluding with the powers that be. What are those specific indications and evidence? Because it just appeared to some people that this is just mere speculation.
Listen to me very carefully, because you see, the problem here is that most of our people do not follow history clearly, and they have very short memories. I was the first person, if you remember, 1.5 years ago, when the powers that be within our party, members of the Governors Forum, brought Alimodi Sheriff and recommended him for leadership as national chairman. I was the first and only person within the party to oppose that. And I went on Channels TV and I said, we are going to be put through hell in the hands of this man. And I described vividly what I believe the man represented. And I have absolutely no regrets for that. Now, a few weeks later, a few months later, virtually everybody within the party, including the Governors Forum that brought him, the PDP Board of Trustees, the Ministers Forum, to which I proudly belong, the National Assembly members, everybody came back and said, I was absolutely right. And they now told us, because, by the way, my forum, the Ministers Forum, took that position as well. They had a long 8-hour meeting, and we all agreed, and we championed the cause to get Sheriff out. A few months later, everybody else came back, all the caucus, and said, we were absolutely right. They're very sorry. They didn't know that they'd made the wrong choice. So what to do? We said, get him out right now. They said, give him 3 months. We said, you're making a mistake. They gave him the 3 months, and the rest is history. 3 months passed, and he said he's not going anywhere. Those that brought him, he insulted them. He insulted everybody within the party. He spat in our faces. He implicated our members. He orchestrated all sorts of things against us. And we were, all we were doing was sitting there and saying, fine, we will pray to God, we'll go to court. And we operated in a very disciplined and a very restrained manner, and we just went to court. Court after court. Listen or go and read the Supreme Court judgment. The Supreme Court judge actually said in his judgment, unprecedented, Justice Bode Rhodes-Viver, he said that this man has an obsession with power, and that why does he feel that he must, in an infantile manner, hold on to power at all costs? He went to court, I think, about 10 times in 1 year. And even his lawyer was stripped of his sanship for the atrocious practices that he was committed over this case. So at the end of the day, we have to look at it carefully and accept the fact that we were the victims of this atrocity. Now, I don't blame Sheriff. This is what he's always done throughout his political life. I've known him since 2003, when I was the governor with President Obasanjo. I've known him since that. We used him at that time. He was being used against us. So I don't blame him.
So it was on that premise you came to that conclusion?
No, it's not on that premise. I blame the people that sent him. I come to that conclusion based on what we have faced. You're not a member of the PDP, or at least I don't think you are. And if you are, I'm very happy, because you're a beautiful woman and we need people like you. But we know what we went through. We know what we have suffered. We know what our members have suffered. The Ministers' Forum, the number of our people that were persecuted, the number of people within McAfee's executive that were persecuted and insulted, the governors that were insulted, the PDP board members, elderly men and women, people like Ojo Madueke that has passed and left us now, that spoke so forcefully against Alimodi Sheriff, how he was insulted. We know what we've been through. But you know what? We kept it under the wraps because we realized that at the end of the day, darkness cannot overcome light, and light will overcome darkness. It's not about the PDP. It's about the future of Nigeria. It's about the future of democracy. And we should thank God that we have a virile, strong, united opposition now. And we are ready to go to war. We're ready to take them on. And by God's grace,
so you had reservations about Alimodi Sheriff when he was adopted by the section of the party, because according to you, you knew him since 2001 when you and Obasanjo used him.
I'm saying to you that this is somebody that has always been utilized by government forces to destabilize opposition parties.
Okay.
He was effectively used in the past, not just by Obasanjo, by Yar'Adua, by virtually everybody. Now, I don't want to dwell on him. He is history. Let us talk about the future. Let us talk about where we are heading, and let us talk about the beauty of the situation. We've won at the Supreme Court. Now the challenge is for us to be restrained, to be magnanimous. We welcome all of them back. Those that are truly with us, not the moles, and not the agents of the APC government. We welcome them back. And we say, let's put our house together and let's focus on ensuring that we win the elections. And things are turning in our favor. We won a wonderful election in Osun State a few days ago, as you're aware of. We came together as one. Interestingly, both factions, and that's my state because I know all about it, came together. And we won, out of 10 local government areas in Osun West, we won 9 of them, overwhelmingly. And Adeleke has been elected. A few days later, we won at the Supreme Court. You know, the tide has turned. This is the time for us to come together as one, reach out to the Nigerian people and ask them to reconsider the mandate that they gave these people in 2015.
A lot of people are wondering, hypothetically, what would have happened to people like you who spoke up very strongly and said you wouldn't sit on the same table with Sharif. What would have happened if the tables had turned and the Supreme Court had given the judgment?
There's no question about that. I can speak for myself. I can't speak for anybody else. Maybe I can speak for Ayo Fayose, my good friend and brother, the governor of Ekiti, and a few others that I'm very close to. I would have literally left. I would have left the party and I would have torn up my party card. I would have burnt it. I would never, ever, ever have any fellowship with somebody like that because I believe it's a spiritual principle for me. I believe that there is no fellowship between light and darkness. Like I said, I don't really want to go back.
Can you now fellowship with him if he comes, like you said, to submit himself before the party?
A repented, a contrite Ali Modu Sheriff. I mean, if Saul can become Paul on the road to Damascus, there's hope for everybody. And I am not the one to judge any human being in terms of what he might be in the future. And I cannot base my judgment solely on what happened, what he has done in the past. Of course, he's a human being. And of course, he has members of his own household and a few others that he could bring along with him if he were to join us. That would be a wonderful thing. But this is a serious game we're in now. We have to face the federal government, a federal government which is an essentially evil government, a government that is determined to crush all opposition, silence all opposition voices, and take our country to the brink of civil war and disintegration. And we cannot afford to have that. This country has to be a united country where everybody, wherever you're from, whatever religious faith you belong to, feels that they are equal before God. The APC has taken us away from there, taken us into dangerous waters, and we must get out of those waters as quickly as possible.
Is the battle really over for the PDP now? Because I've heard a lot of people say, yeah, the battle at the Supreme Court, or the legal battle may be over, but the war is not over yet. Well, you've talked about moles who will possibly come into the party to still want to work against the interests of the party towards rebuilding a united front and preparing for the 2019 election. How do you identify these moles? Well, and how do you neutralize them?
Sure, okay, thanks. It's a good question. Now, let me put it to you like this. I've been in politics for almost, 25, 26, 27 years now. And I'll tell you what. It is absolutely normal, let me put it like that, for people that are not wholly with you to be within the same political fold or family. The nature of politics is that you welcome all comers. Some are sincere, some are not sincere. Some espouse your views, some do not. There's a lot of dissension and discord within any political association, just like in any family. And that's okay. The problem you will have, or you may have, is when you carry a dissenter or somebody whose objectives are to destroy your party and hand them over to the enemy, like Judas handed over our Lord Jesus Christ to those that crucified him, and then you now carry that person and you make him head of the party. Under no circumstances will we in the PDP allow such a thing to happen again. It was a genuine mistake by those that brought him. They were warned, they made a mistake, they have repented of that mistake. Since then, they have joined hands with everybody else and shown true leadership and courage and said, we made a mistake, now let's fix it and let's move on. And they fixed it. We all fixed it, and now we're moving on. It will never happen again.
Some people will say the mistake the PDP made perhaps started even before the 2015 general elections, when there were discordant tunes about who becomes or who clinches the party ticket. Now, ticket for the various positions, maybe senatorial elections, House of Representatives, and even presidential election. So, presidential, position. How does the PDP intend to overcome some of those internal problems to be able to neutralize those moves that Utibe mentioned?
Obviously, there are some legitimate concerns that you're absolutely right. internal democracy within the party. I remember we used to come here regularly to discuss with the Chief Raymond Dokpesi concerning how we can restructure the party and ensure there's far more internal democracy and so on and so forth. And also how you arrive at decisions. So people can't just sit somewhere and say, this is where the party is going. That, you know, we have to be able to carry people along. We've made mistakes in the past. We were in power for 16 years, 16 long years. And I believe we brought a lot of development to this country, and we did a pretty good job, despite the disinformation that's being put around now by the APC government. And we managed it for those 16 years. What we need is strong leadership, internal democracy, we need focus, and we need to ensure that we're not just fighting for power now, for the sake of having power. We're fighting for power to ensure that we save our country from what I would describe as the greatest challenge that we have ever faced since the Nigerian Civil War. And we must not play this down. This country is more divided now than it has ever been since the Nigerian Civil War. And students of history and those that are sensitive and discerning will understand the implications. I mean, let me give you an example. In our entire history, we've never had a situation whereby a president, a sitting president, will simply disappear and vanish into thin air for the last 70 days. And for the last 2 years, he spent more time on his sickbed and outside the country than he has on the seat of the throne. There's something fundamentally wrong here. And when we say, well, perhaps this man should resign, as he called for the resignation of Yar'Adua in 2010, and we say he should resign and hand over power to the acting president, full power, not ceremonial power. People say we're being unfair, and it's not so. It's got so bad that British MPs like Eric Joyce and so on and so forth, who are very close to the Buhari government, are saying things like, what is wrong with the Nigerian people and the Nigerian media? Why don't they ask more about their president? This is what gives me and so many other people concern. We have real issues now. We have divisions between Christians and Muslims. We have divisions between the various ethnic groups. We have Fulani herdsmen. We have Boko Haram back on the rise. We have, you know, a government that believes in lies, deceit, that trades in impunity, and that this is a government of propaganda, by propaganda, and for propaganda. And we have a Minister of Information that lies from morning till night. These are the challenges that we face. And I believe that we must ensure that we create a strong vehicle within the PDP leadership and the party to ensure that we present ourselves to the Nigerian people as a group of people that can be trusted with power and can produce, you know, can provide a viable alternative to the catastrophe that is the APC.
The big question would be, how does the PDP intend to do that? Because after losing the presidential election, a lot of people said you had the presidency at the time, 16 years. It was more or less like a clearinghouse, a rallying point where all the egos and ambitions of the party were properly managed. The president said, let's go this way. Everybody will more or less submit. Now we don't have that situation in place anymore. So you have to forge some kind of leadership, a strong leadership.
Absolutely.
And how do you tend to work that out
We're
now?
in the process of doing that right now. We're meeting tonight, the extended caucus meeting. I'm sure a lot of views will be, you know, we've learned our lessons. A lot of people will say a lot of things. Tomorrow there's the PDP Board of Trustees meeting. I believe the Ministers Forum are meeting tomorrow. Then there's a National Executive meeting. And everybody is primed and ready to work together, set our differences aside, and ensure that we work in unity. But we've done pretty well, I have to say this, because for 95% of the party to remain together over the last 1.5 years under one leadership, despite the arrows that have been fired against us by a sitting government that is scared of its own shadow, yet we've managed to persevere and stay together. So we've done pretty well. And let me give you an example of what that togetherness and unity can bring, despite all odds and despite all the challenges we face. Again, I go back to Osun State. Look at what happened. A free and fair election. And we all came together. We weren't in power in Osun. Aregbesola won in Osun State at the last election. He defeated the PDP. He's a sitting governor. Yet we trounced him in a senatorial district, which he had immense interest in ensuring somebody else emerged. We trounced him in his party. Now, but
some persons would say it wasn't necessarily about the PDP, but the people rebelling against
those that are saying
those that
are saying that don't have any sense of history. The Adelekes were PDP members. If you go back a little bit, you know that Adeleke was a senator, the one that passed on, representing us. And he went to the APC. He was a sitting senator when he went to the APC. He now expressed a desire to run for the governorship, and mysteriously, he died. He dropped dead. Now, what happened was that everybody in his constituency decided that going to the APC was a monumental mistake, and they decided to come back home. So it's not about anything to do with rebelling against anything. It is those that have lost the senatorial district and that will lose the state in 2018 by God's grace when we have a new governorship election there. They are the ones that are crying like this, like little babies. The truth is this: the PDP is coming back together as a united, strong entity. We will reach out not just to our members that are not happy with us, or that have not been happy over the last few years about how the parties will run. Not only them, we'll even reach out to people who left us and went to other parties as a consequence of the rubbish that was going on. I've spoke to Dr. Donyo Kupe yesterday and so many others. I'll talk to Obanikoro and so many others. We need everybody on board now because we must ensure that we save this country by getting power in 2019.
Getting power in 2019, what will be the main focus of the PDP? Because we keep going back to the 16-year rule of the PDP, yes, and what it left behind after 16 years. Yes. So we have the security situation deteriorated, infrastructural deficit, social welfare not well managed.
Well, are you reading the APC manifesto when you say that? Let me tell you this. Compare what we had 2 years ago, for goodness sake, to what we have today. You talk about infrastructural development. What have they done in 2 years? You talk about the economy. We're in recession today. You talk about food prices. They have skyrocketed. You talk about poverty in the land, skyrocketed. You talk about insecurity. You talk about insecurity. The Boko Haram they said they would defeat has resurfaced again and is back stronger than ever. You talk about security. Look at what the Fulani herdsmen are doing all over the country. Killing people all over the north, all over the south, with impunity, and yet not one has been arrested or prosecuted or hanged for the missions crime. You talk about these things. Let's look at the hard facts, and let's not live on the lies and feed the lies and the propaganda that APC keeps on churning out morning day. Now, you know, it really has to come to an end, you know, because at the end of the day, propaganda cannot sustain a government. Lies cannot sustain a government. I'm very proud of the fact that the PDP brought Nigeria back from total collapse in 1999 under the leadership of a man that we have immense respect for and that we're still hoping will play a role within our party. That's President Olusegun Obasanjo. We're very proud of his efforts for 8 years. We're proud of Yaradua. We're proud of President Jonathan. Jonathan that went out of his way to ensure that everybody, including the Igbos, particularly the Igbos, felt like human beings again in this country. That's what we need. We need to reach out to everybody, make everybody feel as if they're human beings, as if they're equals, and not implement a clearly sectional religious agenda to Islamize, to destroy, and to humiliate our people. There are many people in the northern Muslims that do not share Buhari's vision of Islamization or ethnic domination. Now, you ask me, what's the difference? When PDP was in power, under Obasanjo, under Yaradua, under President Jonathan, you did not have a situation where every single security agency in this country, without exception, was being headed by a northern Muslim. Without exception, except for the Navy. You never had that. You had a mix. When they were in power, when PDP was in power, you never had a situation where every single commander within the Nigerian armed forces today, that is the Nigerian army, commander of a strategic command happens to be a northern Muslim. You don't believe me? Go and do the homework. I'm not saying Christians aren't commanders. Does that
translate to the Islamization of the country?
What do you think? Let me put that question to you. When you have a situation where Christian religious knowledge is surreptitiously being pulled out of the curriculum and so on and so forth, where you have a situation where you go to the villa today. I worked in the villa for 3 years. The tradition has always been you have a mix of people from all over the country, religious faiths, and all the zones.
Mr. Kayode, some persons would say the chief of
I'm sorry. Let me. He doesn't have operational command. I said every single head of every security agency in this country is an administrative role. You know, before I speak, I do my homework. The chief of army staff is all of them except for one, that is Navy, is headed by Northern Muslims. Let me go back to the villa again. They don't like to hear these things. Go to the villa today. I worked there for a number of years when President Obasanjo was there. And there has always been a tradition of balancing, positions in terms of ethnicity and in terms of faith. It's a tradition, and it's the right and proper thing to do. You go there today, 99% of the positions there are filled by Northern Muslims. I could go on and on. Now, let me just say this, because, you know, I am not against the Muslim faith or Northerners. In our own party, millions and millions of God-fearing, honest, decent Muslims are within our party who do not share this vision that people like Buhari seem to espouse, and those that are around him. And that's where the dichotomy lies. You have to isolate those people that have that world vision. I mean, you kill 1,000 Shia Muslims and you bury them in mass graves, nothing happens. You kill IPOB youths all over the country, nobody's arrested, nothing happens. You kill, or rather, a group of people kill 808 Christians in southern Kaduna on Christmas Day and on Christmas Eve last year, okay, 2016, and nobody's arrested. And you're telling me that there is not more to this than meets the eye. Come on, look, we need to ensure that we sit down and we fix this. You have a situation where agitation is such that IPOB cannot be ignored, no matter what anybody says. IPOB cannot be ignored. This young man brought the whole of the East to a standstill for one day. Nobody went anywhere. Nobody has ever done the history of Nigeria. Then, in retaliation to that, you now have what the group of people called the Arewa youth, backed by some elders in the north, saying that the Igbos must leave the north before October the 1st. This is something that we're all very worried about. And I'm happy that some of my northern Muslim brothers, people like McAfee, our national chairman, and interestingly, a few APC governors and so on and so forth, came out and said that this was the wrong thing for these Arewa youths to say, and this was inappropriate and wrong. But they have not been arrested up until today. And you say that there's no problem? A situation whereby, after 2 years, it's only recently, a few days ago, that the president of Can had access into the villa to see the acting president, who claims to be a Christian. He refused to see anybody, just as his boss Buhari refused to see anybody from Can over a period of time. And you say there's no problem?
We saw in the past the acting president and even President Muhammadu Buhari engage some of these leaders we're talking about from both sides, from Can and, of course, from the Muslim side.
I'm sitting here in front of you. Today is the 17th of July, 2017. Cross-check and do the homework. The first and only time anybody, the president or the acting president, has met with the president and leadership of the Christian Association of Nigeria, a body that represents 90 million Christians in this country, was on June the 13th of this month. They had of last month. They had been trying to see Buhari throughout the time over the last 2 years. He refused to see them. They eventually saw, when Oshibajo was now acting president, he eventually granted them audience on June the 13th. Up until that time, Can has not seen the president for any formal meeting. Ask the president of Can if you doubt that, and ask the presidency themselves.
What will the PDP do differently? I mean, now that it stands to want to take over power by 2019.
Let me,
I ask this question because, you know, you've spoken so, extensively, both on the social media platform and on several media.
I hit a million readers every month with my stuff. Even though they've closed me, and most of my columns have been closed by the government in the hard news. But the social media, I hit a million readers every month.
About how highly sectionalized this particular administration is. Some perhaps will be wondering, what would the PDP do differently?
That's a very good question. We need to go back to the original PDP principles and our foundational principles, which were established as far back as 1999, even before I joined the party. Our elders and our fathers and our political mentors came together and formed a great party based on a vision of equality, of religious and ethnic equality, keeping Nigeria together as one, and making everybody feel like a Nigerian, and everybody will feel like a human being. That's the basic. Now, apart from that, there are issues that we need to resolve now, new issues that have been thrown up, and we have to sit down as a party to know what direction we're going. I, for example, am a great believer in restructuring. That is my own view, and I believe virtually every single Southern and Middle Belt leader in this country shares that view, regardless of your party affiliation. And it's something that we need to discuss within the confines of, Wadata Plaza and the PDP headquarters to see how we can win over some of our northern brothers that may not believe in that. And let's work it together. But whatever the case, the most important thing is this. We need to be united. We need to respect each other. We need to accommodate a myriad of views. You don't shut people out. And we need to win power back to effect proper, I won't use the word change. I stopped using the word change for the last 2 years because it's been bastardized by these people. I'll use the word transformation. That's what we need to do.
Okay, now let's bring back all of those, agenda of the PDP in 2019. Should they win the election? Can the PDP not begin to apply that at this point? Did you at any point condemn the activities of Nnamdi Kanu? Now that you strongly condemn the activities of the Arewa youth who were probably reacting to some of the agitations of Nnamdi Kanu.
First of all, I will speak as an individual on specific issues in this country. When I speak and when I write, I don't speak for the PDP. I speak for Femi Fani-Kayode, FFK, and I have strong views on whatever I choose to speak on. And like I said, despite the fact that they've closed all my newspaper columns, I hit 1 million readers every month with all my websites and columns in various social media platforms. Now, I believe strongly that we all need to come together and agree on how to move this country forward within the PDP. And, regardless of whatever views anybody else may have, if, for example, I was the chairman of the PDP or I was a spokesman of the PDP, there's no way I would say some of these things. I would be speaking specifically for the party. And then you have to now carry everybody around. But I'm not. Now, as long as I speak for myself, I will tell you what I believe ought to happen in this country. Okay. What needs to happen, in my view, is devolution of power from the center. And I'm reflecting the views of Femi Fani or Haneze and so on and so forth. You asked me a specific question. Let me get to it now. That why would the party not condemn Nnamdi Kanu? It would be very, very difficult for me, for example, to subscribe to the view that, the Igbo people or IPOB does not have the right of self-determination. I believe that every single ethnic group and individual has a right of self-determination as long as they're not going to try to use arms to effect it. But I will condemn those that say they will kick out and commit genocide and take the treasure, the house, the property, and even the wives of people that are in their territory if they don't leave by October the 1st. One is an overt threat and a threat to destroy and to harm, and it happened in 1966. We shouldn't take these threats lightly. The other is simply that, look, I'm tired, I'm being marginalized, and win them over and bring them back in.
We'll have time to talk more about this. Let's just go to the news desk now for Pan-Africa World. We'll be back in a moment. Hello there and welcome once again to the news desk. This is Pan-Africa World. The European Union is seeking ways of consolidating and creating new partnerships with the African Union as both continents need each other for economic prosperity. The German envoy, Bernhard Schlagach, said this at an interactive session with Nigerian top managers on how the European Union and Africa Union can develop stronger collaborations. Schlagach said that Nigeria remains a key country which Germany and the European Union cannot ignore in the EU and the AU agenda. He commended efforts of government to reduce dependence on oil, while other speakers at the event said Nigeria can learn from Germany's experience in the area of solar energy. Over 4 billion euros has so far been spent by the European Union in Nigeria for various projects, with about 1.4 billion of that sum spent in the last 10 years. A wall collapsed at a football stadium in Senegal on Saturday, killing 8 people and injuring almost 90. It fell in after fighting began between rival fans, and police responded with tear gas, with a stampede ensuing. Stade de Mbour were playing Union Sportive Wakam at the Demba Diop Stadium in the capital Dakar. The country has suspended all sporting activities and cultural events for the rest of the month. There are also suggestions that the stadium itself was in poor state of repair. 5 Congolese park rangers have been killed in an operation to rescue a U.S. journalist and 3 other rangers. The group had gone missing during a militia attack in the town of Mombasa in the Okapi Wildlife Reserve in the northeast of the country. On Friday, Cosma Wilungula, the head of DR Congo's Park Reserve, said the gunmen were mining gold inside the reserve. The mineral-rich east of the country has been wrecked by decades of war. The kidnapping happened when a group of armed men from the Mai Mai militia attacked a group of park rangers accompanying 3 foreign journalists. During the exchange of fire, some of the group, including 2 Dutch journalists, were able to escape. Well, that's Pan-Africa World. Do stay with us as we look more at the PDP and how its reform agenda looks up.
the African voice.
All right, thank you so much for still staying with us. Femi Fani-Kayode is still with us in the studio. Just before we went on that news break, you were speaking about what the PDP, what the PDP will do, perhaps to condemn activities of IPOB and Nnamdi Kanu. Nnamdi Kanu did threaten the country with the use of sophisticated weapons. So don't you think the reaction from the Arewa Youth Forum was just to, react to that particular threat coming from...
First of all, you can't, assuming that were true, you can't justify the latter. Simply two wrongs don't make a right. But the fact that you started by saying the PDP would condemn. I speak for myself, not the PDP. I will say that I cannot and will never condemn anybody that seeks to exercise their right of self-determination. And I have immense respect and immense affection for Nnamdi Kanu and people within the IPOB who feel marginalized, humiliated, and who feel their people have been killed and slaughtered over the years since 1966. That's my position. Now, I do, however, condemn anybody that threatens violence on anybody else. I'm not somebody that believes in violence. I never heard Nnamdi threaten violence. He has certainly not threatened violence since he and I had a sojourn together in Kuje prison where we spoke for many hours. And I saw a man of peace, a man of vision, and a man that has a passionate love for his people. Now, that's my own view. Now, if I was speaking for the PDP, perhaps I'd take a different position. But what I will do, and I won't say this in the name of political expediency or to be politically correct, I will always say what I believe, regardless of who is with me, whatever party I'm in. I would urge our party members to try their best to understand the pain of those that say they want to leave. And what we should be doing is reaching out to them, consoling them, persuading them. You know, it's like a wife that says, you know, you're a beautiful woman, and I'm not sure if you're married, but if you're not, you will be very soon or one day. Now, you know, sometimes women say, I'm packing my load, I'm going, I'm packing. Yes. And you must say to her, you must say, please, don't go, you know, and after you bluff a while, you now get to the gate, lock the gate and say, please get on your knees and beg her. You don't hold her down and beat her up, rape her all over again, and batter her, and say you must stay at all costs, which is what I believe the Nigerian state has been doing, and I'm against that. We need to reach out to everybody. Now, in response to what you said about the risk, you know, what the Arewa youth group said, look, you need to understand the history of this country. In 1966, after the second coup, in which 300 Igbos were killed, Igbo officers were killed, a similar call was made in the north that Igbos should leave. Within a matter of weeks, 100,000 Igbos were slaughtered in the sanctity of their own homes, in their bedrooms, and in various hospitals, and the pregnant women had their stomachs cut open. It was horrendous, it was hideous, and they were slaughtered. And even as they were going back to these, they were killed at the various train stations. That is a historical experience. So when I hear this kind of genocide being suggested by anybody, pure violence, that a Nigerian must leave a particular region of this country and by such and such a date or else, and nobody is arrested for it, it gives me immense cause for concern. And that's my personal position. All right. But of course, the party's position will probably be different to that.
Now, let's come back to the PDP itself. And of course, you had your expanded caucus meeting, and it's holding today and moving forward, preparing for the convention. Tentative date is October?
Yes, that's what we have read. I think we're going to resolve all that between today and tomorrow closing. I think it'll be very clear precisely what the timetable. But I did read that, yes.
Are we expecting some kind of constitution amendments to the PDP? Because I know before now, shortly after the 2015 election, which the PDP lost, there was a Kweremadu committee.
Yeah.
Recently, there was the Governor Serake Dixon committee as well. Several committee and reports that has been made in terms of reconciliation, in terms of repositioning the party, in terms of correcting what led to the failure of 2015 and moving forward. Let me talk about the issue of, I want to hear you talk about the issue of a zoning arrangement.
Yes.
You've said it's a gentlemanly agreement. And we've seen how that gentlemanly agreement has played out along the years. Should it be time that the PDP should incorporate this gentlemanly agreement into its constitution itself moving forward?
Well, it's not a bad idea, but you know, I don't think that as a party we have really violated that principle of zoning. I don't think we've ever done it. There are always people from you know, another zone or another place that the party has not zoned whatever elective offices is too, they will say they want to vie. But the truth is that they don't have much of a chance once everybody has, by consensus, come together to say this is where we're going to take the presidency or the chairmanship or whatever. That is the nature of our party. That is the way we operate, by consensus, by valuing everybody's contribution. And we have various caucuses within the party, strong caucuses, like the Governors Forum, PDP Board of Trustees Forum, Ministers Forum, and National Assembly Members Forum, that come to these consensus, and then we all come together and agree on a way forward. Now, if you're talking about constitutional amendment within the party, I happen to believe it's something that we need to do. But, you know, there are many people within our party, you mentioned a few names now, and others like Professor Jerry Gana, our governors, Fayoshe, Wike, who are very sensible people, Ogwai in the East, sensible, level-headed people. Professor Adiniro, there are many like that. And we can sit down and work this out. For me, the most important thing is this. We need to work it out. We need to get our act together and move forward as well.
Mr. Kayode, I asked that question because going by the Kwere-Madu report, it clearly stated that the PDP, major reason why the PDP lost the election was because it didn't give power to, a Northerner was not the presidential candidate of the party.
In 2015.
Yeah.
And if that had happened, going by it being just a gentleman, that's why I'm saying, should it be mainstreamed in the constitution of the PDP?
You know, with respect to that committee's report and so on and so forth, I have not read that report. I do not believe and I do not share the view that we should go back and start talking about 2015, because if we did, we'd have a lot to say. There's also a corollary to that. If you didn't give it to Jonathan to run again, there's every likelihood that the Niger Delta area and other parts of the South would have rebelled and voted for the other side. So we could argue that from morning to night. But what I'm saying is whatever needs to be done, if we have to put it in the Constitution, why not? It's not a big deal. All we're trying to achieve is equity and fairness, for everybody to have a sense of belonging and a belief that at the end of the day, it's not just about getting power to a particular region, but what will you use that power for? And we have to come up with clearly stated objectives in our manifesto and believe them, that we want A, B, C, D, E. For example, I will argue forcefully within the various courts, not publicly, but behind closed doors. I would argue strongly and forcefully that we need to imbibe the ethos of restructuring and devolution of power within our party. These are my views, and I would argue that.
How do you intend to, moving forward, biometric registration? We're seeing 2019 just, around the corner, and some analysts have said in 2019 we're going to have two groups of political parties. So we're going to have APC and PDP on one side, and we're going to have a cluster of other willing, very forward-looking, progressive political parties in 2019. How does the PDP intend to, get itself out of the pack to be able to meet the demands of membership of the party and, of course, entrenched internal democracy, talking about biometric registration?
We have to have internal reform. We have to be ready to accept such ideas. It's a very progressive idea. I happen to believe that that's the way forward. You need to get as many people. You see, if you have a party that is based on the grassroots and the kind of biometric registration that you're saying, it makes it more difficult for you to play games. Gone are the days where a few people can sit in a room somewhere, they're a governor or a minister, whatever, and say this is the way the party is going. You're representing millions of people all over the country now. It's not just a political game anymore. It's about the future and destiny of your nation. So we need to be as inclusive as possible. And these are some of the things that I think we need to bring on board. But one thing I would like to say before we end this interview, the Minister of Information, I was told a couple of days ago, I read, made some comments about the PDP, in which he said something to the effect that the Supreme Court has raised the dead body and the body stinks to high heaven and so on. It's such, graphically unacceptable terms. Not only that, Bolaji Abdullahi, the spokesman of the APC, also warned us not to dream of coming back to power in 2019. And of course, Ali Modu Sheriff called us all looters. I have responded effectively to all three of them in an essay I wrote just last night, and I've released it this morning, titled The APC Cult of Death. I urge every Nigerian to Google that title, The APC Cult of Death, and read my response to these three people, because we are not a rotting corpse. They are the ones that are the rotting corpse. We are people that are coming out to provide a genuine, legitimate alternative to the mess that APC has put us in. And by God's grace, we will get them out in 2019.
All right, talking about APC putting the country in a mess, some persons would beg to differ and say that within the 2 years of the PDP administration, the APC administration, they've been able to make some inroads as far as the economy is concerned. They, within 60 days, were able to entrench the ease of doing business, and of course, the launch of the voluntary asset and income declaration scheme, and the economic recovery and growth plan.
We are in an economic recession. You can list and talk about all the sort of, white elephant projects that they claim that they're doing that nobody has seen the effect of. Listen, the reality is that we are in a recession. Nigerians are suffering. 2.1 million people lost their jobs last year alone in 2016. Nigerians are living well below the poverty line now. Millions of Nigerians cannot feed themselves on a daily basis. They cannot afford to buy food. They can't afford to buy the basic commodities. They can't afford transport. They can't afford anything. And they're losing jobs. Graduate unemployment is an all-time high. The value of our money has completely gone right down. Had it not been for the fact that a few patriotic people exposed what was really going on in certain places, the value of our money would still be at a critical low today. Well, it's not good enough. Power generation. We had a man, governor of Lagos State, who came in and said he would fix it within 6 months. We now call him the Prince of Darkness because he has generated less power than the PDP government did by the time Obasanjo finished in 2007. Look, I could go on and on. This sort of very unpleasant and very draconian and frankly disgusting assertion that we've done this and they're beating their chests like pregnant apes all over the place when they've done nothing. It's very insulting to the Nigerian people. We must get to the reality of this. This thing will affect our children and our children's children. We don't want a banana republic. We don't want a pariah state. We don't want a divided, weak, poverty-stricken, shameful nation of people, 180 million people who don't even know where their president is and have not asked questions for the last 70 days. We want a Nigeria that is virile, that is strong, that is respected in the Committee of Nations, that can move forward, and we want a Nigerian armed forces that is the pride of Africa that it once was. And only the PDP can take us there, and by God's grace, we'll get there.
Briefly, Mr. Kayode, before we let you go, you talked briefly on it, but let's look very briefly on the state of the nation at the moment.
Sure.
A lot of people are wondering where the president is. But the acting president went to London recently and came back, said he's seen the president. The president is doing quite well. You've come out to challenge that. For Governor Ekiti State, I've also come out to challenge that. Do you have any information for Nigerians that the acting president could have been in a better position to give us, which he has given?
Let me tell you this, and this is not a joke, it's a very serious issue, a very serious issue indeed. I have known the acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, for almost 30 years, and he's a man of honor, he's a good man, he's an erudite law professor, and he's a very profoundly good man, okay? But I am utterly shocked that one, he has allowed himself to be caged by the cabal and not shown the traditional strength of the Yoruba people, and not allow himself to be cornered like a little chicken the way he's doing. That's number one. And then for him to say he went to London and had a meeting with the president for 1 hour or whatever, and the president is doing well, this is a pernicious lie. It is not true. The president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is not well. It's not a crime not to be well. We are all praying for him. We all hope he will become well. But this is a nation that needs to be run in a serious manner, not by lies and by propaganda. The president is not well. The president, I believe, is on life support machine. The president...
Do you have any evidence?
No. They have asserted that he is well. They have asserted they've seen him. Ask him, were there any pictures? Was there a video clip? Was there any pictures with him? No, there were not. None whatsoever. Do Nigerians not deserve to have at least that? Now, once they don't provide the evidence of which they are asserting to be true, I have every right to accept that what I am saying is the truth until the contrary is proven. I'll be delighted if President Buhari comes back tomorrow and hale and hearty and continues to run the affairs of the nation. You know why? It'll give us the opportunity to defeat him hands down in 2019. So we all want that. But the reality is that we deserve better. We want to know the truth. We have a right to know the truth. And if you tell us he's hale and hearty, he's coming back soon, give us the evidence. Show us pictures. Let us see our president. Even though I don't like him, and I don't like the federal government. He's my president as well. I want to see him. I want to be sure that he's okay and to ensure that my prayers are working. He won't do that.
Oh, you're praying for him to
Oh, sure. I'm praying for him to come back so we can defeat him at the polls.
Looks like the PDP went through the same route about seven years ago.
And you know what happened when the PDP went through the same route? The same Buhari and APC asked him to resign. But you know what happened? He left. God took him away and the number 2 took over. What do you think will happen when, if I pray it doesn't happen, the president goes away? I think that Oshibajo is going to have a very hard time in the hands of the cabal. He claims to be acting president. Till today, he has not been able to swear in any of the ministers that were cleared months ago by the Senate and so on and so forth. Is that what you call an acting president?
All right. Former Minister of Aviation and, of course, spokesman for the campaign organization of former President Goodluck Jonathan, Femi Fani-Kayode. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you so much for your time. It's a pleasure. We're not done yet talking PDP. Let's go over to our Lagos Center. They'll be looking at the upcoming council elections in Lagos State. And of course, you know that the PDP candidates in that election were given their ticket by the now removed chairman of the PDP, Ali Modu Sharif. So what happens? Any issues out of that? Well, Lagos Center will take care of that. Stay with us.
I need a product that I can really trust to restore my skin's natural fairness.
Nivea Natural Fairness Body Lotion with an innovative formula containing unique berry extracts to visibly lighten and care for your skin.
Hello, you must be here to pick up your sister. Mommy? Wow, you have the most beautiful glowing skin.